So, real quick, one thing that I wanted to add was the fact that there are different variations of Turing machines. There are Turing machines like multi-tape and non-deterministic Turing machines, similar to how a DFA has non-determinism eventually into an NFA, and that's just a design tool. So every multi-tape DFA that has multiple heads and non-deterministic Turing machines that have multiple heads or multiple tapes are all going to be able to be broken down into state diagrams like the one we just went over. So I didn't find any great problems in the book to describe that, but I thought that was an important concept that I didn't want to leave out. But so anyways, moving on to 4.3, which is the next example, which is about decidability. So Turing machines have the same computational power as a computer. So it's important to know that not every problem can be solved by a computer, and that's something that I had a little bit of a hard time grasping, and I thought this example was a pretty good way of describing a problem that doesn't seem like it can be solved, but actually can, and it is decidable. So you take this problem where all DFA is going to be equal to a DFA A, which is able to interpret the language of A, which is the language of everything. Sigma star is everything. So you need to see if all DFA is decidable. So what I struggled with here is I didn't know how to make a DFA that was going to be able to take everything as an input. So eventually, through reading the book, I realized that the way to do this is to make a DFA called A and have it go with its 5-tuple representation Q, sigma, delta. Q1 is the start state and F is the accepting states, where in this example F is just Qn. So I made a DFA, and that goes and is not really able to tell us much. So from there I made a complement, which is essentially the same thing except all the accepting states are reversed. So Q1 through Qn minus 1 are going to be accepting states, and then Qn is not going to be an accepting state. So through theorem 4.4, they're able to tell us that eDFA, which is an empty language, is going to be decidable, and I try to show here that that's decidable with the DFA A complement. So theorem 4.4 says essentially you start by marking your start state, and then every state that has a transition function from an accepting state, like from a marked state. So any state that has a transition from a marked state, you're also going to mark until you run out of states. So here we get Q1 is going to be an accepting state, Q2 and Q3. So if we're giving an empty language, then Q1 is going to be able to accept that language because there's nothing in it. So taking that, knowing that the complement of A is A complement, and that's able to accept nothing, we can then infer that the opposite of A complement, which is just A, is going to be able to accept the complement of the empty language, which is going to be sigma star. So I thought this was a really cool way of breaking down a problem that seems non-computational in terms of a computer, but is actually decidable. And I thought decidability through DFA is a very interesting concept that was able to help me understand the computational limits of a computer.